let's look at this particular question called Sberry. So Sberry, what do? They manufacture products which have a short life cycle due to technological obsolescence. Okay, so it's a short life cycle, right? So it aims to keep each product in production for at least 18 months so that it can recover the high cost of product development and it's to make an acceptable profit. So it has to be relevant for 18 months at least in order to generate acceptable profit, right? And Asbury has always manufactured its product in home countries of D-land, from where all materials are also sourced. So it's all sourced within its home country, right? So let's just see the requirement. So advise, the verb is advise. The three new developed product, each of the key three new developed products, each of the three stakeholders group would choose to export to K-land based on their respective risk appetite. Okay, so we have been given three stakeholders and which market they would choose to export, right? And basically based on the three newly developed products. So we might have to make some analysis of that. We need to explain the problems using risks and uncertainty analysis techniques, right? Which you have used in part A, right? So whatever we did over here in part A, we just need to come up with the problems of it, right? And C is what? Advise the stakeholders how analyzing external environment in K-land using PEST can help Asbury maximize its performance there. You are not required to produce an PEST analysis. So we just need to analyze the external environment in K-land using PEST analysis. Using a PEST analysis can help, how it can help maximize its performance there. How a PEST analysis, right? Okay, we could do that. Whenever I think about this PEST analysis, I remember a company where there was a political thing that was already analyzed by CEO and there was some inflation thing. Okay, that's coming to my mind right now, that question. But still, let's just do this thing. So we need to look at the macroeconomic situations as well, something relating to risks and uncertainty techniques used, and then which product to develop, right? So sales opportunity in K-land, right, has manufactured its products in its home country of D-land. So now currently it's in what? D-land is its home country, right? So there is a sales opportunity in K-land. That means what we'll be doing, we will be exporting. Okay, we will be exporting, right? So has identified three new products, so red, blue and green, right? And important thing over here, you see the rate of technological obsolescence is slower in K-land than in D-land, so we could use that, right? Estimated levels of demand, selling price and cost are given in appendix 1. Okay, stakeholders views on the risks of the K-land opportunity. So three stakeholder groups, there is what is that? Employees, directors and shareholders. So Maximax, Maximin, right? And expected value, I'm just assuming that. Okay, so have been consulted for their views on the proposal to export to K-land, and in particular which of the new developed product to export. Okay, so basically we are asking for the advice. So what has happened is basically the employees are what? Cautious, right, following a recent product launch, and number of employees have lost their. So you see in the earlier question as well, they had talked about how there was unemployment in the country, right? In the previous question, in that they had mentioned about that, right? So what was it about? That one was about VC funding for, what was the name of the company? Daldron, right? In that they had mentioned there is a high level of unemployment, high level of unemployment, right? So similarly, in this case, what has happened? So number of employees have lost their job as a result of what? So they have as a result of recent failure of product launch, right? So we can talk about the impact on employees. We can talk about the safety regulation, right? So it could be that it's a strict environment. Good analysis points, right? So that marks could be earned. It's operating in a strict environment, or the product launch was in a strict environment, which the product breached, right? So directors, what are they? They are individually wealthy, so have served in the board for many years, are keen to earn large bonus, that means maximax, which is currently offered solely on the total profit. So since profit is already there, so they will be using maximax strategy. So this will be maximin, right? Shareholders neither seek nor avoid risk, but they are keen that the company considers external environment. Keen, okay, the company to consider external environment in K-land in order to maximize performance there, wherever the product is chosen to be exported, whichever product is going to be exported, right? They want to maximize performance, maximum return, right? And they have asked for pest analysis of the environment in K-land to be produced. A draft has indicated the exchange rate between is a key economic factor which may affect performance. Okay, we'll talk about that, right? And firstly, we need to come up with this expected value thing, right? First of all, we need to compute for appendix 1. Right, so for that we have some costs, right? We are exporting it. Right now we are sourcing material in our own currency, which is total unit cost is in D dollar. We are selling in K dollar. That means in K-land we are selling in K-land. This $8 need to be converted back into our local currency by the exchange rate. Okay, so development cost and sunk cost can be ignored. Okay, and then the estimated product life of the 3 years is same, and the total demand for is for the whole life of the product. Okay, it's for the whole life. Okay, so it has not mentioned how much, but yeah, it's same. And then the exchange rate, okay, it's for 18 months, right? Normally for 18 months. So the current exchange rate between D-land and K-land is, you see, we are using exchange rate of what? It's currently 1 D-land equals to 2, right? So it's exactly 50% higher, 100% higher, right? So Sberry finance director has estimated that over the life of the product, 75% probability is there that the interest rate will D dollar will strengthen, right? So since we are exporting goods, right, so if that currency is being strengthened, then what will happen? We'll receive less money. Okay, if it is getting weaker, then it'll be profit for us. So similarly for exporter, right, for an exporter, I want to talk about this, and for importer the circumstance will be exactly opposite. Okay, for exporter, what happens? If our currency is basically getting stronger, it will mean that the other currency is being devalued, right? So that will mean what? So the $1 which was worth $2 will strengthen by $1 equals 2.2, right? 2.2, right? So if we were to sell it over there at $2, right, now you would have to what? You would have to sell it at 2.2 to get back how much? $1. Okay, this is your revenue. So if your currency is getting stronger, it's bad for us, okay? But if you are importing goods from there, what happens? If your dollar becomes stronger, you will be able to import more goods, right? So before it was $1 equals to 2, and you're importing goods from there, that means for the same dollar you will be getting more goods, right? So it's exactly the same, it's exactly the opposite, I mean, right? So 75% probability is strengthening and 25% probability is weakening, okay? So at the exchange rate, 50% of the total cost for each product from which are imported from K land, okay? So 50% of this cost is actually imported from K land, invoiced in K dollar, okay? How will that impact us? Basically, when the rate changes, this will also change, okay? This will also change. The ratio or the proportion of it will change, let's just say that. Right, so let's do the calculations. So let me just open up the model answer. What the hell, I opened Reddit, sorry, that was a mistake. I wanted to open Goodreads, but I think it's over here. Not APM, practice then. Yeah, it's in practice, okay. Oh, it's already in practice, not this one. I wanted to open books. Okay, now it's there. Now we have it. Right, so right now what's happening over here is basically sorry about that. So the question is on RICS, right? So RICS and then PEST analysis, and then linkage between RICS and PEST. So that will come later on. Right, in the first part, what do you need to do? So advise which of the three product each of the three stakeholders would choose to export, right? So first of all, let's do the calculation. First important thing. So first important thing is let's calculate, right? So if the currency strengthens, it will be 220, and if the currency decreases, it will be 180, right? So 2 minus 10% will be 1.8, 0.2, and then 0.2, and then 2 minus 0.2 will be 1.8, right? And then for the total profit, right, so we have our exchange rate, right? So there is 75% probability that it will be what, 2.2, and it will be 1.8, right? For the total profit, so if the exchange rate currently is what, at 1 or 2.2, right? If the exchange rate is 2.2, what will happen? And the revenue will be same thing. So 50,000 into 8, right? Right, it will be 50,000 times 8. So that will give us revenue in K land. So in K land's dollar, we need to convert that revenue to our own revenue. So that will be, since the current exchange rate is what, we are analyzing it if the exchange rate increases by 2.2. Okay, so we divide that amount by 2.2. That's our revenue. We got that. All right, so revenue is there. We need to find what, cost, and that will give us our contribution, right? So our cost is basically how much? Our cost is basically 50,000, that's the number of unit, times 1.2, 50% of that cost. Remember, 50% of the total cost is we are using that for using imported materials, and other cost is basically 50% of it is locally sourced, 50% is from the other company, other country, right? So 50,000 times 1.2 will give us 60,000, right? So 60,000 is our, there is a print mistake over here, so it's 60,000 only. Okay, so 60,000 is that our other cost. And then what about the thing, the cost from imported materials, right? So in that, what is it? So 50,000 times to $1.2 is the half of the import cost, right? So that's the total import cost. And how much are we paying them? How much is it costing us? So it's costing us 2.2, right? It's costing us 2.2, but how much proportion of that, right? Before it was $2, it would have been how much? It would have been 60,000 times 2 by 2. It would have been 60,000 exactly. But now what's happening? So since the rate has increased, right? So $1 is equal to more, so we are importing more of it, right? More of it. So we are only receiving $2 divided by 2.2. That will be how much? 95 something, right? So it's costing us that much less. Okay, so you see over here, it would have been exactly 60,000 if the rate would have been $2. But now what has happened? It's costing us, for the same unit, it's costing us only how much? 54,000 only. Okay, so because of this rate increase. Okay, that's why is that? Basically it's out of how much? So the total thing has happened is it has strengthened by 10%. So of course the cost will be less by 10% kind of thing, right? So almost to that proportion. Okay, so it's basically out of $2, it's increased from 2 to 2.2. So out of 2.2, 0.2 was the increase, net increase. Okay, so yeah, based on that you get your profit. I know they've made it a bit complicated over here, but this could be done in a very simpler way, right? And that's the only thing. Okay, so if you've been given imported material, always remember, if half of it is doing that way, you have to divide it as per proportion. Okay, as per proportion. And for blue, same thing, revenue in Kland, revenue in your local currency. For green, same thing. All right, the only thing difference over here will be when you're calculating your costs. Okay, so 1.5 will be in your local currency, 1.5 will be in your external currency, and then we look at how much. So 60,000 times 1.5, that's the amount to total value worth when it is $2, right? When it is $2. But right now what has happened, the value has changed to 2.2, right? So for that your costing will only be 81,818. Similarly for green, it's the same thing, and then we get all these different profits for all this different situation, right? And for $1.8, you could have done it side by side. Okay, red, and then you could have done red, and then just use the exchange rate over here, and then 2.2, 1.8, and then that could be done that way as well. So similarly in this situation, what they do, so they use the same thing, but in that situation what they do, they reduce the price. Okay, so $1 is only worth how much? 1.8, right? So $D has weakened right now, right? So we have to pay more. You see over here 66,667. Before we were only paying 54,000, right? Or I mean, like if the exchange rate move in our favor, it will have to pay only 54,545. But if it does not, we have to pay more. Okay, so based on that we calculated the profit, right? And then after that what? So we use probability inside it as well. So this is profit for red, when the probability is 75%, right? So there is a 75% probability of that happening. So 0.75 times that, and there is 25% of rates not moving in our favor, right? So there is 25%. So 75% plus 25% will make it 100%. But what we need to do, 75% times your total profit plus 0.25 times your total profit. Okay, so that will give us a value of red is going to be 74,000. For blue is that, and green is that. All right. So let's just bring those values up. All right, and that's the expected value, okay, that we've computed. So if so, let's make the decision for thing. So what would happen? So we have three different stakeholders group. Who are they? They are employees, right? Employees, what they will do, they want maximin. So they want the best possible outcome among the worst. Okay, so they want best among the worst. So for that, which is the best, right? Is it the exchange rate? So we have to make decision on the exchange rate first of all, right? So which is the best? So is it the value of it increasing or decreasing? All right, so if it decreases, if the value decreases, or if the exchange rate decreases, what happens to our profit? It will increase, right? It will increase, but we will look at probability when our exchange rate is higher. Okay, why is that? That's the worst case scenario, because your costs are going higher, or your or the amount of money that you're receiving is less. Okay, so your amount of receiving money is less. Okay, so you're receiving less money, so that's worst outcome. So we will go with 2.2, and within that we choose the value of blue. Okay, we choose blue because that's the best among the worst. Exchange rate, among exchange rate, 2.2 is worse. And then what's that? Blue is basically the best among it, right? And for the director, it's maximax, right? So for 1.8, they will always assume that the exchange rate will strengthen, right? They assume that this interest rate will strengthen, or let's say it will weaken, not strengthen, weaken. That means they'll be getting more revenue, so they will go with green. Okay, and you see right over here, so maximin rule, and then the best of the lowest outcomes, right? So they'll go with blue. And directors are paid bonus, which are dependent on probability of the product chosen, right? So they have served in the pool, so they will be there is little chance that they will be removed by making 4 choices. Hence what will happen, maximax rule will be applied, and they'll go with the green, right? With the green this one, this value. And for shareholders, they will make the decision based on expected value, and they will go with the highest among the expected value. So 82,000, so they will go with the blue. Okay, expected value of 82,728, right? So that's what decision will be for these 3 stakeholders. And what we need to do, so B number, right? So that's again linking back. So problems of using risk and uncertainty analysis, which you have used in part A, right? So we can talk about risk and uncertainty analysis technique. So that will be maximax, maximin rules, and then expected value. So there are different criteria to make decisions in K-land according to the attitude of risk and reward, and then the maximum and maximus rules and expected values are used to determine the decision. So maximin rule is what? Is choosing among the worst outcome, which would be preferred by the employees, can be a excessively risk averse approach, as Sberry's have short product life cycle, so we are coming back to the scenario over here. It must constantly develop new products, so some commercial risks will have to be taken. The maximax rule is risk-seeking directors. It may have been overly optimistic, right? So product choices with maximum reward for profit may be riskier. So which would mean that directors take risks which exceeds shareholders' risk appetite, right, as to earn high bonus. Remember, they are choosing green. Right? So which could be excessive of the risk appetite of shareholders. So the problem of the both Maximax and Maximin is that they ignore the probabilities of outcome actually occurring. So they don't take into account of probabilities. Okay. And for expected value, in that approach, it takes long run approach which apply to decisions which are repeated many times. Okay, remember the similar answer earlier. The expected value approach is a long run average which is applied to decisions which are repeated every time, not good for one-off events. Okay, the actual expected value is not a possible outcome and will never occur in practice. Okay, though Sberry may have developed many products, it has no experience in forecasting exchange rate, so expected value approach may not be appropriate, right? So currently it's only producing in homeland country, right? So that's another big, see how they have linked with this particular point, right? The first paragraph itself, right? So it's only good for one-off projects and may not be appropriate, and then the actual outcome the actual expected value is not a possible outcome. Okay, the actual expected value is not a possible outcome, and the actual outcome could be entirely different. So again, expected value, it relies on probabilities, which is subjective, right? Which relies on estimates of probabilities as well, right? So which could be subjective, and also there is average exchange rate which is taken, right? So it's relying on that, so which limits the approach of using expected value. Okay, so it's the limitation as well we need to provide clearly. Advise the shareholders how analyzing the external environment using pest analysis can help Sberry maximize its performance there. Right, where is the draft? I just can't see it. I just can't see it. Okay, anyways, so what is the calculation mark? So 1 mark per point, and then how best improves performance, it's 6 marks. Okay, so analyzing the expected environment in K-land or external environment will allow Sberry to identify opportunities and threats. It can minimize or maximize performance by exploiting opportunities as developing the new product to take advantage of growing income levels and slower rate of technological obsolescence in K-land. Right. So the draft pest analysis has indicated that the exchange rate between D-land and K-land is economic factor affecting performance. Right. So it's affecting performance. So by identifying this, the company can analyze the effect of exchange rate on profits and hedging against adverse exchange rate movement. They can do hedging, right? So a thorough analysis of safety regulations may prevent problems which occurred because of product failure in the earlier situation, right? It will help us to identify opportunities and threats. It will help us to identify CSFs and KPI to help set target for this particular project or for this new product that's being developed in a new country, right? So pest analysis will make us identify critical success factors, right? And KPIs. So having identified products safety as a legal factor affecting performance, CSF must be abide by regulations in KLAND. So the number of breaches of safety regulations would be a suitable KPI. They have provided an example as well to the scenario, right? And then for pest analysis can be used to set targets appropriate for the environment, right? So for the environment which where it is operating, right? So there could be other things such as Sberry can use. So CSF could be is that it produces product for long enough to recover the development and make an acceptable profit, right? So for that it could be KPIs such as time in production could be 24 months in KLAND, where technological obsolescence is slower rather than 18 months in, right? So the KPI or length of time in production, it could be 24 months in the KLAND, right? So that will be different for different country, okay? Because technological obsolescence is slower. So it will help us to make all this CSF's KPI, and it will help us to identify any opportunities and threats that's there. So that's giving us 6 marks. Very good point, right? Very good point. Even me, I would have missed it, that's for sure. So 14 marks, so much for calculations. And then justification of approach selected for each stakeholders group, and then selection of correct product based on approach, 3 marks. Okay. So total cost is 3. Okay, use marks for calculation. Justification is 3 marks. Okay, 1 marks per stakeholder, and selection of correct product 1 marks, right? So obviously if you get the numericals correct, you would get this particular marks as well. Okay, very good. And what is the examiner comment? I'm pretty sure C number, most of them missed it, right? I'm pretty sure B number as well, most of them missed it. So candidates were good at identifying appropriate risk appetites for each of the stakeholders, and slim majority of them correctly identified the correct method to apply for each group. Slim majority. However, answers were generally weak on calculation of this method. Common problem area for the candidates is they could not identify external scenarios for Maximax and Maximax method, which is 2 possible exchange rate scenario. Okay, they could not identify. So poor ability in calculating exchange rate needed in the question. Okay. And number B. So answers to this part were generally poor, reflecting poor technique understanding of the topic. So future candidates should not only require the discussion of problems of these methods, but should also be well answered even though specific numerical work in part A had not been done well. Okay, based on that they could not generate an answer for this one, right? Because it's more about not really the earlier approach, not the numerical discussion, but still, yeah. Okay, and then answer to this part were fairly good enough, although candidates again offered answers that dealt with only heading by heading with the method and not address how models as a whole assist the company. You see, the model as a whole, how does it assist the company? It does not say that. Okay, it's not, people are not answering that, so they are just answering how political factor could help maximize performance, how economic factor could help maximize let's say the economic variables, right? So let's say the exchange rate, how social heading can help maximize performance, as to how the employment status, let's say the employment part of it, right? So that's how they did it, but not as a whole, not as a whole, um, not as a whole company. The question illustrates the danger of question spotting not studying the full APM syllabus. The examination is now fully compulsory, and so candidates must prepare to answer on any part of the syllabus. It also illustrates the general point that candidates are expected to be improved on their ability by or to apply methods learned in earlier examination levels to different and sometimes more complex scenarios in APM. Okay, interesting take by examiner, right? So that's pretty much it for this question. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.